The scent of lemon polish clung to her fingers long after she put the rag down. Elena Cruz had spent the last 3 hours on her knees, scrubbing the marble floors of the Reyes estate's private gallery.
No one visited the gallery.
No one cared about the dust on 19th-century sculptures or the grime on imported mahogany pedestals.
But Daniel Reyes demandait perfection. Flawless surface, symmetry, silence. Outside the towering windows, Los Angeles shimmered under a muted sun, the Hollywood Hills a jagged silhouette in the distance. Inside, the Reyes mansion exhaled cool air and indifference.
Elena was a ghost here. 2 years into this job and not once had anyone asked her name unless it was to correct her. Not Daniel, not his men, not even the other staff. Just you or maid or her. She never corrected them. Not when her pay went through. Not when her mother's medical bills in Tijuana kept piling up and every cent she earned mattered. Elena wiped sweat from her forehead and poured the dirty water into the sink in the East Corridor's janitor closet. She rinsed her hands, then lingered at the small window above the basin. Something moved in the driveway below. It wasn't the guards. They walked with military confidence. This figure crouched low beside one of the sleek matte black Teslas parked beneath the garage awning. Not sneaking, too intentional for that, but not belonging either. She squinted. The figure moved quickly, hands working beneath the car's front grille. Her heart jumped.
She blinked once, twice.
Gone. No figure.
Just the Tesla. Just the afternoony shimmering on the stone driveway.
She hesitated. Maybe she imagined it. She hadn't eaten since morning. Her shifts had been longer lately, and sleep came in 2-hour patches between worry and exhaustion. But something inside her, the part of her that had learned to trust instincts while living undocumented in a city of predators, screamed that what she saw was real. She grabbed the flashlight from the utility rack and walked to the garage. Her shoes made no sound on the polished concrete. Every step was muscle memory, 2 years of learning to move like air.
The Tesla sat quiet. Pristine.
No scratches. No open panels. She circled it slowly, knelt once, looked underneath. Nothing obvious. No wires. No tools. No devices taped to the undercarriage. Still, her nerves didn't settle. The unease clung to her ribs like cold sweat. That night, she couldn't sleep. The mansion was too still, too perfect.
Outside, the lights along the back garden flickered against the night, casting long shadow on the ivy-covered walls.
Elena lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to convince herself she had imagined it. But the feeling wouldn't leave. The next morning, she was up before the kitchen staff. She ground Daniel Reyes's favorite coffee beans by hand. He liked the scent fresh, the taste bold with no sugar, no milk. Served at exactly 7:30 a.m. on the west veranda. At 7:27, she placed the silver tray on the sideboard. At 7:29, she adjusted the linen napkin and wiped a non-existent smudge from the espresso cup. At 7:30, he arrived. Daniel Reyes was as intimidating as the rumors promised. Early 40s, angular face, sharp suit, every inch of him screamed controlled power. His reputation stretched from LA's tech underworld to the cartel-connected corridors of Arizona's trade routes. Elena had cleaned blood from his floor once. No one ever spoke of it. He nodded at the tray. Didn't look at her. He never did. He poured his own coffee, then answered a call in Spanish. His tone was measured, but Elena caught key words. She'd grown up on both sides of the border.
She knew the rhythm of danger. Meeting Cantway. Yes, you'll be there in 20, no delay.
Luther's expecting me. His hand reached for the Tesla's keys.
Everything in Elena screamed at once.
Her mouth opened before she had time to think.
Don't start your car. The word sliced through the air like a sirene. The silver tréclateur chic knocked it over.
Daniel turned. So did everyone else. Silence snapped across the room like a whip. 2 security guards reached under their jackets, eyes narrowed. Daniel stared at her, really stared, like she just appeared out of thin air. What did you say? His voice was quiet. Cold. Please, she gasped.
Don't start your car.
Who are you? She swallowed.
Elena. Elena Cruz.
I work here. 2 years. You clean, he said, as if trying to place her. Yes, but last night, Yesterday, I saw someone by your car.
Un dernier titre.
I checked. I didn't see anything. But then you said you need to go fast, that Luther's expecting you. What if it's triggered by speed? Like a pressure sensor. Something in the wiring. You're telling me this now? I wasn't sure. I thought I was imagining it. But I couldn't risk it. Daniel didn't move. Then, Javier. Full sweep.
Tesla.
Now. But. Now. The guard sprang into motion, calling in a team of men who looked like they belonged to a private military. Within minutes, the garage was swarming with equipment, scanning tools, and hardened men. Daniel gestured to a chair.
Elena sat. Heure en chouk.
She'd either saved a man's life or just made the most humiliating mistake of hers. 15 minutes passed. Then Javier returned, his face pale. There's a device, he said.
Under the grill.
Small.
We read into the acceleration control. Speed trigger.
Hit 40 and... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Daniel's gaze returned to Elena. But something had shifted. This time, he wasn't looking through her. He was seeing her. You just saved my life, he said slowly. Elena exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. But the relief didn't last. Because in that moment, she also knew, her life had just ended as she knew it.
She wasn't invisible anymore.
And that was far more dangerous. The silence in the Reyes estate after the failed car bombing was different. It wasn't peace. It was calculation. Elena felt it in the way the staff spoke in shorter sentences, in how the guards now followed her with their eyes, not because she was invisible, but because she had become a variable. An unpredictable one. She wasn't sent back to clean the guest bathrooms. Instead, Daniel Reyes ordered that she be moved into a guest room on the 3rd floor. The room had a private bath, a view of the hills, and a door that locked from the inside. No one said why. Javier delivered the key himself. You'll stay up here, he said, eyes unreadable.
You leave the room only with escort. You speak to no one.
You answer when called. I'm not under arrest, Elena replied, the sarcasm slipping out before she could stop it.
Javier's brow rose slightly. You're under protection.
The kind most people don't walk away from. When he left, she sat on the edge of the bed, trying to make sense of what had just become of her life. A week ago, she was washing sheets and sweeping corners where no one tread. Now she was in a position few survived, someone who had seen something, said something, and changed the trajectory of a man like Daniel Reyes. She didn't see him for the rest of that day. Nor the next. But the estate was a different place. Everyone walked more carefully, whispered more quietly. She caught snippets of Spanish and English, of calls being made and names being checked. The word leak came up more than once. So did Luther. 2 days after the attempt on his life, Daniel summoned her. The sun was just rising, casting gold across the wide windows of the estate's west wing. Elena was led to a study she had never entered. It was smaller than she expected, cozy almost, but lined wall-to-wall with screens. Security feeds, maps, encrypted data streams. Daniel stood at the window, hands behind his back. You've disrupted a lot, he said without turning. I didn't mean to. But you did. He finally turned, his eyes sharper than she remembered. You disrupted me. You disrupted the man trying to kill me. You disrupted the people watching to see how I would respond. She didn't answer. You're undocumented. It wasn't a question. Yes, she said anyway.
You lead on your application.
I didn't have a choice. My mother's in Tijuana.
Stage tri-cancer.
I couldn't wait 5 years for papers. He nodded once. So you lied to get close to me. Her heart jumped. No. I lied to get a job. I didn't even know who you were when I applied. I find that hard to believe. I didn't care who you were. I cared about paying for radiation and medication my country couldn't give my mother. Daniel walked over to a small table, picked up a file, and opened it.
Your mother's name is Ana Lucia Cruz.
Diagnosed 2 years ago.
Local hospital. Charité care application de need.
She's been treated twice with borrowed money and pills bought on the street. No formal care in months. Elena stared at him.
How do you know all that?
I had you vetted, he said simply. The moment you saved my life, I needed to know who you were. I know you were studying veterinary medicine. I know you dropped out to work after your father died. I know you've sent home over 70% of your pay. I know you haven't broken a single rule in this house in 2 years. Until now. What rule did I break? You stepped into my world, he said quietly.
And you can't step back out.
There it was. The truth she had been afraid of. I don't want anything from you, she said. I didn't save you because I had a plan. I saved you because someone needed to say something. That's it. People like you don't say things in this house. Maybe that's the problem. For a second, something flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Not pity.
Something else.
Then it was gone. I'm sending your mother to a private clinic in San Diego, he said.
Under a différent name.
You'll have visitation rights. She'll receive the best care. Elena's knees nearly gave out. Why? Because you did something no one else would. You risked everything for a man you didn't know. And because I owe you a debt. I didn't ask for this. You didn't have to. She left the study in a daze. Her mother was going to live. The burden she had carried for 2 years, every dollar hoarded, every ache ignored, was suddenly lighter. And yet, there was a new weight in its place. That evening, Daniel invited her to dinner. It wasn't formal. No servants. Just the two of them at a long glass table overlooking the hills, with soft jazz playing in the background. He poured the wine himself. She didn't touch hers. You don't trust me, he said after a while. Should I? No, he admitted. But that doesn't mean I'm your enemy. What are you then? He didn't answer. Halfway through the meal, there was a knock at the glass doors. Javier entered, speaking softly in Spanish.
Daniel's expression hardened.
We need to go, he said. Now. To where? Your old apartment. Why? Daniel looked at her, something unreadable in his face. They found it. The ride through LA was silent. Daniel drove himself, a black SUV with no plates, windows tinted darker than legally allowed. Javier followed in a second car. Elena stared out the window as familiar streets rushed by. Her old neighborhood was loud and crowded, a stark contrast to the silence of Beverly Hills. They pulled into the alley behind her apartment building. Or what was left of it.
Smoke curled into the night sky. Flamme liquid what used to be the top floor.
Fire trucks blared from down the block.
Jésus, Daniel muttered. My things, Elena whispered.
Everything. Not everything, he said, already on his phone.
You're not staying here anymore.
Someone just tried to erase your past. She turned to him. Do you think it was meant for me? I think it was meant for both of us. Message received. He looked at her then, not as a maid, not as a problem, but as someone standing beside him in the line of fire. You're not invisible anymore, he said. And she knew. There was no going back.
Elena never got used to the sound of qui in the Reyes mansion.
Silence there wasn't absence, it was control. Every step, every word, every glance was measured. After the fire that destroyed her apartment, Daniel had doubled the guards around the estate, sealed the gates, and ordered new security protocols that kept everyone inside under near-military scrutiny. For Elena, it meant one thing: she no longer existed as a maid. She was something else now, though she couldn't decide what. Guest? Liability? Asset? The morning after the fire, she tried to return to her usual chores. Gloria, the head of household, intercepted her in the hallway. Mr. Reyes says you're not to do cleaning anymore, Gloria said. He assigned you a different schedule. What kind of schedule? You'll find out. At noon, she was escorted to Daniel's office. He was on the phone, speaking in Spanish, voice low but urgent. No, Javier. If Luther moves first, we respond, but not until then. He thinks fear makes me predictable. When he hung up, his gaze found her. Sit. She did, unsure of the rules anymore. I'm attending a council meeting tonight, he said. It's not a place for civilians. But I need you there. Why? Because you're proof, he said simply. Someone tried to kill me. You saw it. You stopped it. The others will question my version of events unless they see the reason I'm still alive. You're taking me to a meeting of criminals, she said, disbelief edging her voice. He almost smiled. They prefer the word entrepreneurs.
Elena shook her head.
Daniel, I'm not part of your world.
I don't belong there.
You became part of it the moment you screamed in my dining room, he said. You can't pretend otherwise. That night, Gloria helped her dress. The gown was navy blue silk, simple but perfect. Elena stared at herself in the mirror. She looked like someone else entirely, someone expensive, untouchable.
The reflection frightened her.
At 7:30, Daniel met her at the front steps. His suit was charcoal, his tie dark red. There was something ruthless about his beauty, something calculated. Stay close to me, he said. Don't speak unless I ask you to. If anyone addresses you, you answer briefly. No details. The black sedan took them to an estate on the outskirts of Malibu, where ocean mist rolled across the cliffs. Armed guards in suits lined the driveway. Inside, chandeliers dripped light over polished marble. The air smelled of money and threat. 5 men sat around a long table when they entered, each representing a different organization that controlled slices of Los Angeles. Luther Voss was there too, older than Elena imagined, hair silver, smile sharp. His reputation as an ex-CIA operative turned arms broker preceded him. Daniel's hand rested lightly on her back as he guided her forward. Gentlemen, he said evenly, you've all heard of the attempt on my life. Voss's smirk deepened.
Rumor, Daniel.
People say many things. Rumors can be tested. Daniel's voice was cold.
A Bombinder Mai Carisent Rumor.
And this, Voss said, gesturing toward Elena, is your evidence? A maid who suddenly became a heroine. Daniel didn't rise to the bait.
This is Elena Cruz.
She saw the man who planted the device. She prevented my death. She'll testify if necessary. Voss leaned back. Fascinating.
Tell me, MS. Cruz, were you promised anything for your bravery?
Money? Papers, perhaps. The room stilled. Elena met his gaze. No.
I was promised nothing.
I did what anyone should do. He chuckled softly. That's adorable. But we both know people like you don't do things unless they need something. Enough, Daniel said, voice suddenly hard. Voss continued, undeterred. Or maybe she's smarter than she looks. Maybe she staged the whole thing.
Gain your attention, your protection.
Maybe she's the reason your car was wired at all.
The word it like a slap.
The other men shifted, glancing between them, weighing possibilities. Daniel stood slowly, every movement precise. You're implying, he said, that the woman who saved my life is working for you. Voss smiled, unbothered. I'm implying you've gone soft.
Letting sentiment blind you.
I warned you years ago, women are complications. Daniel's voice dropped. Say her name again, and this meeting ends differently. The tension in the room was a live wire. Voss's men reached for their weapons. So did Daniel's.
Elena whispered, don't.
He didn't. But his eyes never left Voss's. You'll regret underestimating me, Daniel said, then turned to the others. Anyone who touches her, threatens her, or speaks of her again answers to me. She's under my protection, permanently. In that world, those words carried a specific meaning. Elena saw it in the men's eyes, the understanding that Daniel had claimed her. Not as an employee, but as his. When they left the meeting, Daniel's hand was still at her back, guiding her toward the car. The ride down the coast was silent. Only the sound of waves crashing against rocks filled the void. Finally, Elena spoke. You shouldn't have said that.
What did you want me to do?
Let him humiliate you.
You made me sound like property. He made you intouchable.
She looked out the window. There's a difference. Back at the mansion, she headed straight for her room. But Daniel followed her. You think I embarrassed you, he said from the doorway. I think you just painted a target on my back. He stepped closer. You were already a target. At least now they know what happens if they aim. Is this how you live? She asked.
Everything a strategy? Every relationship a move on a chessboard.
Yes, he said without apology.
It's how we stay alive.
Then what am I to you? A piece you can use. Something in his expression softened. You're the reason I started playing differently. Elena didn't know how to answer that. She wanted to hate him for his arrogance, his control, but she couldn't. Not when she saw the exhaustion beneath his armor. Later that night, unable to sleep, she wandered down to the courtyard.
The moon agneau, silvering the tilled walls.
One of the German shepherds limped across the garden. She recognized him, Dante, Daniel's favorite.
The dog's hind leg dragged slightly.
She crouched. Hey, big guy. The dog growled softly but didn't pull away. She moved slowly, gently tracing her hand along his flank until she found the swollen joint. Hip dysplasia, she realized immediately. Painful, but treatable. You've been hurting a long time, she murmured. Behind her, a voice said, Can you fix him? She turned. Daniel stood near the archway, arms crossed, watching. I can help, she said. With proper medication, therapy. He's compensating on the left side. Whoever examined him before missed it. He came closer, crouching beside her. Show me. They spent half an hour together, Elena explaining the exercises, the medications, the way pain changes posture. He listened without interruption. You miss it, he said finally. Being a vet? Every day. He nodded. You gave it up for your mother.
She's allée Yave.
He looked at her, eyes softer than she'd ever seen. She's not all you have now. When she met his gaze, the space between them felt fragile, charged. He reached up, brushed a stray strand of hair from her face, then stood abruptly. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow will be complicated. Why? Because after tonight, he said, walking back toward the mansion, everyone knows who you are. And as the door closed behind him, Elena realized that being seen wasn't freedom. It was exposure. The days after the council meeting passed in uneasy silence. Elena sensed it in the way the guards avoided her gaze, in the sudden decrease in staff conversations when she entered a room. Even Gloria, usually composed and distant, offered her warm tea without being asked. Something had shifted. It wasn't respect. It wasn't admiration. It was fear. Daniel didn't speak of the meeting again. He returned to his routine of disappearing behind encrypted calls, private briefings with Javier, and quiet hours locked in his study. Elena was left to exist in the spaces between, no longer a servant, not quite a partner, suspended in a limbo of status she didn't understand and didn't ask for. Then the news broke. It came through Gloria, who knocked on Elena's door with an urgency that immediately made her stomach tighten. You need to see this, she said, holding out her phone. The headline read, Luther Voss found dead in hospital room, foul play suspected. Below it, a photograph of Voss, clearly taken before the meeting, and next to it, Elena. The image was grainy, but unmistakable. A surveillance shot, likely leaked, showed Daniel leading her into the Malibu estate. She was labeled as associate and possible liaison. The article went further. Sources suggest Reyes's mysterious companion was involved in the events leading up to Voss's death. No official statement has been released. Elena's hands turned cold. Gloria watched her, lips tight. You need to speak with him. Now. She found Daniel in the greenhouse, of all places. It was one of the only areas on the property untouched by tension, lush, humid, alive with things that didn't care about power or politics. Daniel stood near a line of orchids, trimming leaves as if nothing outside existed. You knew this was coming?
Elena demanded.
He glanced up. I knew something was coming. They think I had something to do with it. Of course they do. And you're not going to say anything? He set the shears down. If I deny it publicly, it will confirm we're hiding something.
If he says nothing, the media spin it a guilt.
Either way, we lose control of the story. She stared at him, stunned. So you're just going to let them destroy me? No, he said quietly. But I need time. If I act now, it looks like panic. If I wait, I can make a move that sticks. While I'm dragged through headlines and hashtags? Elena, this isn't about you. Then what is it about? He didn't answer. She stepped back. You're not protecting me. You're protecting your image. Daniel looked at her, expression unreadable.
You think that is all this is?
Isn't it? He didn't respond. Didn't deny it. That hurt more than any accusation. By afternoon, reporters had swarmed outside the estate.
Hélicoptère hovered above the hills.
Headlines evolved from speculation to character assassination. Photos of her at the meeting. Her past as an undocumented worker. Anonymous sources. Former employers. They painted her as manipulative, calculating, dangerous. Some called her a femme fatale. Others, a criminal mastermind. A few even questioned whether the bomb threat had been staged for publicity. Her inbox was flooded. Some offered her money for interviews. Others sent threats. Daniel moved her to an interior room with no windows and gave the guards direct orders not to let anyone near her. But that only made it worse. As if she were being hidden because there was something to hide. By evening, the mansion was in lockdown. Staff were sent home. Phones confiscated. Daniel operated like a general in the middle of a siege. But Elena had reached her limit. She walked into the main hall where Daniel and Javier were discussing an intercepted message. I'm going public, she said. Daniel turned, immediately tense. Absolutely not. You don't get to decide that. Yes, I do. This isn't just about your name anymore. It's about perception. Once the public locks onto a version of you, they won't let it go. Then I'll give them a version they can't ignore.
Elena.
I didn't ask to be dragged into your world. But I won't let it eat me alive without a fight. He moved toward her. You're not ready. I don't need to be ready. I just need to be honest. That night, she called a press conference. She didn't ask Daniel for permission. She didn't tell him where or when. Gloria helped her find a neutral location, an old theater downtown, now rented out for events. She stood alone on stage under a single spotlight, dressed plainly in black. No makeup. No dramatics. Just her voice. I didn't grow up in a world like this, she began. I grew up where choices were survival. Where silence was often safer than truth. Where work, even cleaning someone else's floors, was dignity. I didn't come to the Reyes estate to scheme, or to climb some ladder I didn't even know existed. I came to earn money for my mother's cancer treatment. That's all. She paused, steadying her voice. I saw someone near Mr. Reyes's car. I spoke up. That's it. I didn't expect recognition. I certainly didn't expect accusations. But let me be clear, I didn't kill anyone. I didn't plan anything. I saved a man's life, and now I'm being burned for it. Her eyes scanned the room. If that makes me dangerous, then maybe the world is more afraid of women who act than of the men who create violence in silence. She left the stage to thunderous silence. No claps.
No boss.
Just the weight of 100 lenses capturing every blink, every breath. By the time she returned to the estate, the video had gone viral. Millions of views. Social media exploded.
#insupport.
Hashtags in doubt. Pundits debated. Politicians took sides. Daniel was waiting for her in the foyer. I told you not to go, he said. And I went. He watched her. Something in his gaze had changed. Not anger.
Not disappointment. Something deeper.
You just lit a fire you can't put out. Maybe, she said. But at least I lit it myself. That night, neither of them slept. From the west balcony, Elena watched the city burn with lights. Somewhere in that chaos, her name was being twisted, defended, used. But at least now, she had said her truth.
She wasn't invisible anymore.
She was a symbol. And she wasn't sure which was worse. 2 months passed before the city forgot her name. The chaos of headlines moved on to newer scandals, fresher tragedies. The Reyes mansion, once a fortress surrounded by cameras, had quieted. Reporters no longer camped outside the gates. The drones stopped circling overhead. But the silence that followed wasn't relief. It was aftermath. Elena stayed, though the house no longer felt safe. Daniel's protection came with a price: constant surveillance, endless caution, and a distance between them that hadn't existed before. They rarely spoke. When they did, the words were clipped, careful, as if one wrong sentence might detonate the fragile piece holding everything together. The night before she decided to leave, she found Daniel in his study. He was sitting in front of the same wall of screens, though now most of them were dark.
Only one flickered, a security feed from the front.
"You're still watching," she said quietly. "I always watch," he replied without looking up. "Even when there's nothing left to see?" He turned then, the faintest shadow under his eyes. "There's always something to see."
She stepped closer.
"You can stop protecting me now." He gave a short, humorless laugh. "You think it's that easy? Luther's dead, but the people he worked with aren't.
You've made enemy, Elena.
Walking away won't make them forget. Staying here doesn't make them disappear either," she said.
I can't live in your shadow, Daniel.
"I can't keep being the woman you saved and then locked away for her own safety." His jaw tightened. "You'd rather go back to cleaning floors in East LA? "I'd rather decide who I am again," she said. "Even if that means starting from nothing." He studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded once.
If you leave, you do it under my watch.
"You'll have protection, new documents, money to start over."
I don't want your money.
"You'll take it," he said quietly.
Because pride won't keep you alive.
She didn't argue. Not because he was right, but because she was tired. The next morning, she left. Gloria stood at the front door, arms crossed, pretending the tears in her eyes were from the sun. Javier helped load the last of the boxes into a black SUV. Daniel didn't come out to say goodbye. Maybe that was for the best. Los Angeles looked different from the passenger seat. Brighter somehow, though maybe that was just the absence of fear. When they crossed into East LA, the skyline gave way to faded murals and the smell of frying masa.
The streets were loud, imperfect, alive. Elena found a small storefront on the corner of a busy street.
The building was old but sturdy, with enough space for a reception area, 2 treatment rooms, and a back lot for stray animals. She signed the lease the same day. 2 months later, the Cruz Community Veterinary Clinic opened its doors. It wasn't glamorous. The paint peeled in places, the air conditioner wheezed, and the waiting chairs came from a thrift store. But people came. Mothers with injured cats. Teenagers with street dogs. Old men with the only companions they had left. Elena treated them all. Word spread. She hired 2 assistants, then a receptionist. Donations trickled in from people she'd never met. One afternoon, Gloria appeared at the door carrying a box of medical supplies. "He asked me to bring these," she said. Elena didn't need to ask who. "Tell him I said thank you." Gloria nodded. "He watches your interviews, you know. The one where you talked about helping animals no one sees." He said that sounded familiar. After she left, Elena stood for a long time in the doorway, watching the cars pass. A little girl across the street was walking a one-eyed dog that wagged its tail like the world had never heard it. For the first time in months, Elena smiled without forcing it. Life settled into rhythm. Mornings filled with checkups and vaccinations, afternoons with surgeries and phone calls to suppliers. Nights spent cleaning instruments and updating records by hand. Simple work. Honest work. The kind that quieted her mind. But peace never came without echoes. Sometimes she dreamed of the mansion, its long corridors, the endless tension in the air. Sometimes she dreamed of Daniel, his voice soft and low, saying her name like a secret. And sometimes she woke to the memory of fire, of headlines, of a world that had chewed her up and decided what she was. One evening, nearly 2 years after she left, the clinic was closing when a woman came in carrying a sealed envelope. "This was dropped off at the front desk," the woman said.
No return address.
Elena wiped her hands and took it. The envelope was thick, expensive paper, her name written in handwriting she hadn't seen since that night in the greenhouse. She opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of stationery.
Elena,
"You once told me that saving a life and living one are not the same. I've learned that the hard way. I dismantled what was left of the organization. What couldn't be cleaned, I burned. The rest I gave to the authorities. They'll come for me eventually. Maybe they should. But before they do, I wanted you to know I found the peace I didn't believe existed."
You weren't my weakness. You were my compass. If the world ever feel too quiet, look east just before dawn.
That's when I remember you most. D. The letter trembled in her hands. For a long time she didn't move. Then she folded it carefully, slipped it into the drawer beneath the counter, and turned off the lights. Outside, the sun had already set, but the sky still burned with streaks of orange and gold. Across the street, the little girl and the one-eyed dog were there again, sitting on the curb, sharing a piece of bread. Elena crossed the street, crouched beside them, and scratched the dog behind the ear. "How's he doing?" she asked.
Better, the girl said.
"You fixed him." Elena smiled.
No, sweetheart.
"He fixed himself. I just helped." When she walked back toward the clinic, she looked up at the sky. A faint blush of pink hovered at the horizon, the kind that promised morning wasn't far away.
For a moment, she imagined Daniel somewhere out there, watching the sunlight.
Maybe he would never come back. Maybe he shouldn't. Some stories didn't end in reunion. Some ended in understanding. She unlocked the clinic door, flipped on the lights, and breathed in the scent of antiseptic and fur. A new day was coming. Another stray would need saving. Another person would need a little hope. Elena Cruz, once invisible, once accused, once lost in someone else's war, was finally her own person again. Not a symbol. Not a victim. Not a myth. Just someone who learned that sometimes surviving isn't about winning. It's about choosing peace over victory. And as the morning light spilled through the glass, she whispered to no one, "I see you too."